Hi, Evolve and Ascend. Happy Tuesday. It's Jen. I wanted to come on here and talk about a few things. As these conversations typically go, we start with one general idea and fractal into another. I had debated whether or not to have this conversation be about the spiritual effects of alcohol, which is something I want to talk about at some point, but I'd love to gauge your interest. Hi, Katharina. Nice to see you. Talking about addiction and alcohol and things like that, I think deserves like somewhat of a trigger warning. So if talking about that in a future time feels good to you, please let me know, because I feel like that's there's a lot to unpack in that conversation, and it could be really good for us to dive into it. Personally, I actually stopped drinking alcohol in July, and I've noticed over the last few months my life considerably get better, my clarity get sharper, my awareness expand, and there's something to it. So anyway, we don't have to talk about that tonight. I just wanted to gauge your interest for future chats. Tonight, I wanted to talk about synchronicity and see where that spirals out. As you can see, I also have a pen and paper here, so that it kind of could be cool to also test out this new way of divination that I've been doing. So I want to start with talking about synchronicity. So before we get into that. So synchronicity, how do I explain it? Carl Jung spoke often about synchronicity, about how in all chaos there's a cosmos, in all cosmos there's a secret order. I'm paraphrasing. Hey, Stuart. But synchronicity also is an ever-present reality that is there for us to see if we have the eyes to recognize it. So a lot of people see synchronicities in the way of like numbers repeating. So 1111, 111, 222, 333, looking at a clock at a certain time, always looking at that time. There's a really great movie with Brit Marling called I Origins, the letter I dash Origins. And it is a whole exploration into synchronicity and past lives. If you're looking for something good to watch, I highly recommend it, especially if you liked the OA, which was unfortunately canceled. Synchronicity can be another really great film actually for synchronicity is I Heart Huckabees. Highly recommend that. It's with Dustin Hoffman and Lily Tomlin, and they play existential detectives. It's a very, very good movie. But yeah, Daniel Pinchbeck, forgive me if I'm incorrect in which book it's from, but I believe it was in Breaking Open the Head, where he talks about how in shamanic culture, synchronicity is a sign, recognized as a sign that you're on the right path. So in your life, if you've ever had an instance where you are seeing a repeating number or having a repeating thing occur, and you can't just quite put your finger on it, you might be getting warmer to a part of your life that has a big lesson or something interesting for you to discover or unpack. My life has been riddled in synchronicity. Almost at moments I'm like, is this for real? But I wanted to talk about one in particular that I actually haven't shared on any podcast or anything, but it's worthy of sharing, especially with a lot of the conversations we've been having on here. So, in winter of 2015, my ex-boyfriend got a gig selling Christmas trees. I don't even know how or why or what, but this gig was offered to him, and essentially, he'd just be selling Christmas trees in a lot of this shopping center and make money, basically. I forget, it was commission, whatever else. essentially it was like pretty heinous. So he had to be chopping down, selling Christmas trees as a side hustle for money. And it was weird. So I would visit him a lot. And one of the days that I came to visit him, so where the lot with the Christmas trees was a kind of like a dumpster area or like Goodwill for clothes. And we see all of these books kind of scattered around where the clothing drop off is. I'm like, what the hell? What are all these books? And literally in this pile of books, it was everything that we had been studying at the time. So, the Lost Gospels of Jesus, dream work, psychology, tarot decks, and they were all owned by what I came to find out, an amazing woman named Clara Yvonne McBurney. And inside all of these books, this book was one of the ones included, Shambala, The Sacred Path of the Warrior by Chogyam Trungpa. Yvonne, in all of her books, created her own notes. So I not only discovered this treasure trove of amazing esoteric books in a parking lot of where he was selling Christmas trees, they were so special because they contained the notes of the person who owned them. Clara had passed away, and I guess a family member, they weren't that meaningful to them. So they dumped him in a parking lot, only for us to discover. And, I just moved from New Jersey to California, so I could only take a certain amount of books. But this is the one that I took with me because it is very, very special. Like I said, all of the books, she put her own notes inside. So you see everything, a lot of the pages are covered up. And these were just found discarded in a parking lot. So what's interesting about this book is Chogyam Trungpa is one of those teachers that I really connect with. He's not for everybody. Like Krishnamurti, who I've been referencing a lot, is not for everyone. But he's kind of a no bullshit. This is the way to be a warrior on the path and not get distracted by glamour and illusion. So I figured it'd be cool to maybe read a little bit out of here, talk a little bit what's coming up for you, and yeah, share your synchronicities if you have them. I love interacting with you all, so if there's anything that comes to mind, see, look, all of her beautiful hand-drawn notes in here, is awesome. So what is a good passage in here that I feel would be worth sharing? So, give me a moment. Let's see. And feel free to chime in. I'm here. I'm listening. Okay. So this is actually not part of this book. This is something that Clara added on her own. And I think it might be good to read to you all. So, the personal homage and invocation. Being unafraid to face and be who I am in the eternal now of vast mind. The extraordinary exertion of meek. The continuous discipline of perky. The fearless going beyond all limits of outrageous. The egoless giving of unscrutable. All grounded in that primordial confidence beyond words. Await and invite me. I surrender myself, body, speech, and mind, to this path of fearless gentleness, and offer myself in mindful service to the world. I pay homage to, and invoke the presence of, the non-dualistic wisdom of the phenomenal world as it is. In a daring leap, I step beyond myself, transcending all hope and fear, and open up my heart and mind in raw and inquisitive appreciation to all of the vivid, familiar, unexpected, exciting, boring, joyous, painful, and utterly real details of my message-rich world. Through faith in myself, my world, and this path, may I cultivate discipline, gentleness, generosity, and learning, so that I may be of better service to others and fulfill the warrior's duty of generating warmth and compassion for others, with wisdom, compassion, and renunciation, dispelling all outer, inner, and secret obstacles. I stand without reference point, self-contained, alone. I pay homage to, invoke the power of, this path of Shambhala warriorship. No longer creating enemies in order to conquer them. No longer enhancing self at the expense of others. No longer holding back effort in anything I do. Becoming one with the present moment and letting go of everything else. I fully embrace the basic goodness of self and other, radiating the magical simplicity of the phenomenal world. Freedom dances in the palm of this discipline, in the brilliant and profound light of unconditionality, allowing pure communication which invites the meeting of heart and mind, which invites the fearless, doubtless love of the Shambhala warrior for all the sacred world. I pay homage to, invoke the joy of, the basic goodness of all that exists. May great Eastern Sun vision be the vision of all. Hi, so this book is called Shambala, The Sacred Path of the Warrior, and it's by Chogyam Trungpa. After the lives are done, I always reference what I read on here, and I'm reading from this one because it's really special if you watch from the beginning. So basically, this book and a pile of really sacred, beautiful, esoteric books were discovered through a synchronicity outside of a dumpster in a parking lot where my ex-boyfriend was selling Christmas trees. And the whole book is not only Chogyam Trumpa's words, but it was the words of the woman who owned the book. She put all of her own handwritten notes on here. She passed away. I looked her up after we found the books, and I found her obituary, and she had passed away, but she seemed like such a wonderful person, and I believe some fate of God brought these to us, because these are one of my greatest treasures of synchronicity and beauty. So yeah, I mean, it's really, life works in strange ways. Oh, here we go. In the editor's preface, she put this. It says, Pearls, life is what happens to you while you're making other plans. So yeah, one of my favorite simple quotes is that man plans, God laughs, because that happens often. So yeah, so for example, so there's a lot of her postcards and bookmarks in these books too. So this is a really great quote that she had written in here. So this is one of her bookmarks, a Native American photo. And Yvonne had written, at one time, art was what you wore, what you ate and cooked with, how you lived your life. It was not something apart to be visited in a museum. That was her words. I wish I could have known her in her waking life, but I feel so blessed that her spirit brought these books. So, in the past, oh, here we are. Another one of her bookmarks. This one says, I feel so lucky that when I was young, those who I most admired were the wise older ones, not afraid to go right when others were going left. Those are her words. I mean, it just devastates me to think that these could have just been tossed in a dumpster and thrown away. I mean, just the care that she put into these books was amazing. So yeah. So, I was saying, with past lives that we've done, it's been kind of cool to, so say for example, when I was reading through the Tao Te Ching, I asked if you guys wanted to pick a number, and I could flip to a page and we can see what comes through. Talking about synchronicity and kind of like divining from a divine text. That could be something really cool to do. This book is, let's see. How many pages is this book? 210 pages. 23. Great, I love 23. Actually, the painting behind me that, let me show you. Let me show you this because you said 23. So this painting, if you can see behind me, is done by a dear friend of mine named Richie Brown. He's on Instagram at Richie Browntown, and it's based off of the number 23. So it's like a whole crazy thing he did based off of the number 23. So let's see what page 23 has to say. And let's see. 21, 22, 23. So this is 23. So you see there's the text from the book, and then there's Yvonne's notes that she put in. So let's read the text from the book, and then I'll read Yvonne's passages, and then we'll go through some other pages. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is beautiful. From the great cosmic mirror, without beginning and without end, human society became manifest. At the time, liberation and confusion arose. When fear and doubt occurred, toward the confidence which is primordially free, countless multitudes of cowards arose. When the confidence which is primordially free was followed and delighted in, countless multitudes of warriors arose. Those countless multitudes of cowards had hid themselves in caves and jungles. They killed their brothers and sisters and ate their flesh. They followed the example of beasts. They provoked terror in each other. Thus they took their own lives. They kindled a fire of hatred. They constantly roiled in the river of lust. They wallowed in the mud of laziness. The age of famine and plague arose. Of those who were dedicated to the primordial confidence, the many hosts of warriors, some went to highland mountains and erected beautiful castles of crystals. Some went to the lands of beautiful lakes and islands and erected lovely palaces. Some went to the pleasant plains and sowed fields of barley, rice, and wheat. They were always without quarrel, ever loving and very generous. Without encouragement, through their self-existing inscrutability, they were always devoted to the imperial Rigdon. So then Yvonne had found her own notes. So what she says here is, there is a power and energy available with which we make our own life workable. To recognize and use this energy is liberation. To not do so is confusion, ignorance, and cowardice. And then at the bottom it says, at that time, Imperial Rigdon, in order to join heaven and earth, sent his messenger, a Sakyang warrior. Thus a good human society was created on this earth. Of the letter of the black ash, that was the section initiating the discussion. Super interesting. How does that land for you? I like how Yvonne kind of gave her note about that there's the power and energy of life with which we can make our life workable. If we recognize and use this energy, it's liberation. When we don't, it actually causes more suffering. You're welcome. So 44 or 18. We can do both, Jake. Let's do 44, 18, and 202. So do you want to do 44 first, or should we do 18 first? Maybe we'll do 18. All right. 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay. So this is a long page, and then a little bit of the passage from her on the side. So I'm going to skim and find something good. Oh, it's actually, the whole thing is her own passage. So this page 18 is a breathing exercise. So the breathing exercise actually starts on page 17. So it might be interesting to read from 17 to 18, I think, because it wouldn't make sense to just start reading 18. So, Tonglen Practice. Part of the second of the 7 points of mind training is a practice of Mahayana Buddhism, which aims at awakening our hearts, relative bodhicitta. Tonglen, which should always be preceded and followed by strict samatha meditation, is a 4-stage, can be done in 3, process in which we fool the pain of self and other fully on through in breath and give away our positive as an antidote on the out-breath after first creating open space. Interesting. So now for the instruction. So the first step is called flashing absolute bodhicitta, which basically means just opening up. The second step is working with the abstract quality of pain by visualizing it as black, heavy, and hot and breathing that in, and working with the abstract quality of pleasure by visualizing it as white, light, and cool and breathing that out. My understanding of this stage is that before you get into the real meaty, difficult stuff, you work with the abstract principles of pain and pleasure, synchronizing them with the in-breath and the out-breath. The first stage is just open space. Then you start working with what's called the relative practice, the humanness, our everyday life situation. Breathing pain in, pleasure out, black in, white out. Then you get to the third stage, which is actually the heart of the practice. Here you visualize a specific life situation and connect with the pain of it. You breathe that in, feeling it completely. It's the opposite of avoidance. You're completely willing to acknowledge and feel pain, your own pain, the pain of a dear friend or the pain of a total stranger. And on the out-breath, you let the sense of ventilating and opening, the sense of spaciousness go out. In other words, suppose there's someone in your life that you can't stand, the very thought of whom brings up all kinds of negative feelings. You decide to do Tonglen work, to work with the feelings, more open and brave and gentle in that particular situation. So you think of that person and come up those awful feelings. And when you're breathing in, you connect with them, their quality and texture, just how they grab your heart. It's not that you try to figure them out, you just feel the pain. And then on the out-breath, you relax, let go, open up, ventilate the whole thing. But you don't luxuriate in that for very long, because when you breathe in again, it's back to that painful feeling. You don't get completely trapped, drowned in that, because the next you breathe out, you open and relax and share some sense of space again. Maybe you want to grasp onto the joy, but then when you breathe in again, maybe you want to dwell on the pain, but then you breathe out again. It's like you're learning how to touch and go. You touch again and then you let go again. You don't prefer the pain to the pleasure or the pleasure to the pain. You work back and forth continually. So Yvonne says allow 15 minutes for all stages, including 10 minutes for the Tonglen. Well, that seems like a very powerful practice. How many of you on here actively do breath work? Breath work is something that I've done a handful of times. Not so intentional with like synchronizing mind and breath in a way like this practice. But at Rhythmia, where I teach once or twice a year, they do transformational breathing. And some people will go into states that actually are like psychedelic states. Some say that they can be just as powerful as having an ayahuasca journey. In my own experience with breath work, it's not my medicine. It's definitely intense. The first time I did it, I had all these weird phantom pains in my head, and they said it's like rebirthing. I don't know. It's powerful though, because the lungs actually create DMT, and when you get into that state, yes, it's a retreat center down in Costa Rica. Before COVID hit, I was actually supposed to teach there in August, but now I'm booked again for 2021. I teach a workshop on tapping into your intuition, and I do it in a really down-to-earth, relatable way. It's really fun and very relatable. It's kind of like demystifying the mystical. But yeah, Rhythmia offers breath work. They offer plant medicine. They offer farm-to-table food. It's a really incredible experience. But yeah, breath work. So that was what we got from 18. What was the other number? You had said 44. 44 and then 202. All right. Let's see what page 44 says. Oh, funny enough, there was a bookmark on 44. So 44. Some people say that this world is the work of a divine principle, but the Shambhala teachings are not concerned with divine origins. The point of warriorship is to work personally with our situation now as it is. From the Shambhala point of view, when we say that human beings are basically good, we mean that they have every faculty they need so that they don't have to fight with their world. Our being is good because it is not a fundamental source of aggression or complaint. We cannot complain that we have eyes, ears, a nose, and a mouth. We cannot redesign our physiological system, and for that matter, we cannot redesign our state of mind. Basic goodness is what we have, what we are provided with. It is a natural situation that we have inherited from our birth onwards. We should feel that it is wonderful to be in this world. How wonderful it is to see all the red and yellow, blue and green, purple and black. All these colors are provided for us. We feel hot and cold. We taste sweet and sour. We have these sensations and we deserve them. They are good. So the first step in realizing basic goodness is to appreciate what we have. But then we should look further and more precisely at what we are, where we are, who we are, when we are, and how we are as human beings, so that we can take possession of our basic goodness. It is not really a possession, but nonetheless, we deserve it. Basic goodness is closely connected to the idea of bodhicitta in the Buddhist tradition. Bodhi means awake or wakeful, and citta means heart. So bodhicitta is awakened heart. Such an awakened heart comes from being willing to face your state of mind. That may seem like a great demand, but it is necessary. You should examine yourself and ask how many times you have tried to connect with your heart fully and truly. So Yvonne says at the bottom here, though I know hope and fear cannot alter the seasons and that I must at some point face my state of mind, when in the season of loneliness I forget. Oh, I really love this human being. Relate to that too. Awakening the heart. You know, the heart, when we're in the womb, is what forms before the brain, right? So the heart actually comes before the brain. And the heart, you know, when we think of the brain, there's two hemispheres of mind. You have the right and the left. Masculine, feminine, creative, logical, intuitive, linear. The heart is all, you know, there's no delineation. It's got like the ventricles that blood pumps through, but heart is this space of wholeness, is a space of oneness. There's organizations like Heart Math that actually are studying the electromagnetic field of the heart and the inner intelligence of the heart. Hi, Angie. So the text that I'm reading is Shambala, The Sacred Path of the Warrior by Chogyam Trungpa. I can give you, before I go back into Heart Talks, just so you all know what this book is. I mean, I feel like I've talked about everything except for what this book actually is. So I'll read the back for you. So this book, in this practical guide to enlightened living, Chogyam Trungpa offers an inspiring vision for our time based on the figure of the sacred warrior. In ancient times, the warrior learned to master the challenges of life both on and off the battlefield. He acquired a sense of personal freedom and power, not through violence or aggression, but through gentleness, courage, and self-knowledge. The Japanese samurai, the warrior kings of Tibet, the knights of medieval Europe, and the warriors of the Native American tribes are a few examples of this universal tradition of wisdom. With this book, the warrior's path is open to contemporary men and women in search of self-mastery and greater fulfillment. Interpreting the warrior's journey in modern terms, Trungpa discusses such skills as synchronizing mind and body, overcoming habitual behaviors, relaxing within discipline, facing the world with openness and fearlessness, and finding the sacred dimension of everyday life. Above all, Trungpa shows that in discovering the basic goodness of human life, the warrior learns to radiate that goodness out into the world for the peace and sanity of others. The Shambhala teachings, named for a legendary Himalayan kingdom where prosperity and happiness reign, thus point to the potential for enlightened conduct that exists within every human being. The basic wisdom of Shambhala, Trungpa writes, is that in this world as it is, we can find a good and meaningful human life that will also serve others. That is our true richness. So this is a book. This is a book that I found discarded in a dumpster in a parking lot where my ex-boyfriend was selling Christmas trees. So the other page that we were going to go to. So what I'm doing also, Angie, is that, hi, Ashley. How are you? some of these lives, what I've been doing is taking text and kind of like divining through the books. So if you pick a number from 1 to 210, we can turn to the page and see how that wisdom resonates and do little dharma talks around it. So 202. And this is Chogyam Trungpa, the author. 198, 199, 200, 201, 202. Okay. Which is really cool. So 202 is more about Chogyam Trungpa, but also has some of Yvonne's notes in here. So, Trungpa Rinpoche also found, so Rinpoche, in Buddhist teachings, Rinpoche means like precious one. So they'll say like Guru Rinpoche to describe Padmasambhava, or Rinpoche is like a term of endearment for a beloved teacher. It's like my precious teacher. So Trungpa Rinpoche also founded the Naropa Institute, an innovative college that combines the contemplative studies with the liberal arts curriculum. Shambala training was founded in 1976, and Trungpa Rinpoche developed a number of programs that apply the Shambhala principles to traditional Eastern principles such as Ikebana, flower arranging, and Kyoto archery. Chogyam Trungpa moved to Halifax, Nova Scotia in 1986, and he died there on the following year on April 4th. So there are a few poems that the owner of this book, thank you, Angie, thank you for being here, put in. So we'll read these poems. So the first one, 3, Song of the Wanderer. The mood of sadness is inexhaustible. Trying to end it would be like trying to reach the limits of space. The feeling of longing is sharp and quick, like an arrow shot by a skillful archer. Across the sea in an Asian island, there are wildflowers of every kind. These flowers are inseparable from the yogi's experience. This is too realistic to only be a dream. But if it's really happening, I must say it's rather amusing. In the land of Bhutan, where the mountains are clothed in mist, young Chogyam is wandering like a stray dog. In the hermitage of the Blue Rock Castle, a pregnant tigress is suckling her young. There we found the nectar of the new age. Bhutan is probably one of my favorite places I've ever been to, by the way. I'd love to discuss that trip on a future live. So the next one is 10. The Zen Teacher. So the Zen teacher hates the horse, but the horse carries him. And at the river, both depend on the boat. For crossing the mountains, it is better to carry a stick. Let me read that again. So this is like a Zen koan. So Zen koans are really interesting. They're like these kind of like non-dual, trippy ways of teaching through a riddle. So one of the first ones I ever heard was from a friend of mine. He said, teach, not talking. So contemplate on what does it mean, teach, not talking? How do you teach without talking? And unpacking that riddle, for me at least, what it means is to like be an embodied version of your practice. So to teach through your action, not necessarily through contrived platitudes. That's how I'd interpret that one. So this one, so as a koan, it says, the Zen teacher hates the horse, but the horse carries him. At the river, both depend on the boat. For crossing the mountains, it is better to carry a stick. I don't know how I would interpret that one. It's pretty good. I need time to unpack that. I welcome your interpretations. So, and the last one, I'm assuming these are all from him. I wish I knew where these came from. So 9, Meteoric Iron Mountain. Meteoric iron mountain piercing to the sky, with lightning and hailstorm clouds around about it. There's so much energy where I live, which feeds me. There is no romantic mystique. There is just a village boy on a cold, wet morning going to the farm, fetching milk for the family. Foolishness and wisdom, grandeur and simplicity, are all the same, because they live on what they are. There is no application for exotic wisdom. Wisdom must communicate to the men of now. Dharma is the study of what is, and fulfills the understanding of what is here right now. The ripple expands when you throw the pebble. It is true, a fact. That is the point of faith, of full conviction, which no one can defeat or challenge. Please, readers, read it slowly so you can feel that depth of calmness as you read. Love to you. I am the Bodhisattva who will not abandon you, in accordance with my vow, compassion to all. Beautiful. Oh, I felt that one in my heart. How about you? 44. We actually had read 44, Angie. So if you can replay this when it's over, you can hear that passage. But if you'd like to pick a number, we can do that. And Jake, I definitely agree. Let's peep 111. Let's see what synchronicities abound on page 111. 111. Here's 111. All right. So, right. I'm going to start on 110 because this begins with the end of that paragraph. So, the idea of sacred spaces is also what gives grandeur to a great cathedral like Chartres or to a house of government like the English Houses of Parliament. Churches are consciously built as sacred places, whereas a house of government may never have been conceived of as sacred by its architects. Nevertheless, those places have a presence that is more than the structure of the building or the beauty of the materials used to construct them. They radiate a particular atmosphere that you cannot help but feel. The Greeks and the Romans laid out their cities with some understanding of external drama. You might say that putting a fountain at the center of a square or at a crossroads is a random choice, but when you come upon that fountain, it does not feel very random at all. It is in its own proper place, and it seems to enhance the space around it. In modern times, we don't think very highly of the Romans with all of their debauchery and corrupt rulers. We tend to downplay the wisdom of their culture. Certainly, corruption dispels drama. But there is some power and wisdom in the Roman civilization which we should not overlook. In summary, invoking the external drama principle is connected with organizing your environment so that it becomes a sacred space. This begins with the organization of your personal household environment. And beyond that, it can include much larger environments such as city or even entire country. Then there is invoking internal drama, which is how to invoke drama in your body. Basically, the experience of internal drama is that you feel oneness in your body. Oneness in the sense that your head, your shoulders, your torso, your arms, your genitals, your knees, your legs, and your toes all hang together as one basically good human body. You feel no quarrel between your head and shoulders, between your toes and legs, and so forth. It doesn't really matter whether your hair is growing gray or you are developing wrinkles on your face or your hands are shaky. There is still a feeling that your body has its own fitness, its own unity. When you look, you hear. When you hear, you smell. When you smell, you taste. And when you taste, you feel. All of your sense perceptions work as one unit, as one basic goodness, one expression of basic health. And then Yvonne says at the bottom, internal drama is not the same as inner drama. See pages 175 and 176. Yeah, definitely an interesting concept. Internal organization of things. Hey, Maddie. We're reading from Shambhala, The Sacred Path of the Warrior. I do notice, and I don't know how about you all, so there's absolutely a correlation between our inner and outer worlds. How our inner affects the outer, how our outer affects the inner. 29. You're welcome. Thanks, Jake. Nice to connect. I noticed as something as simple as when I'm feeling sad or depressed, it'll be like weird. I just don't even care about making the bed. My house is messy. I just don't care, when I'm feeling sad. But there's something really powerful about even when you're feeling sad, the action of just making the bed, how that can actually recalibrate your entire life. Or your entire day when you're feeling bad. A friend of mine who's so much different than me, but we have really interesting discussions from time to time. And he said that he identified that there's a fractal in the way that you start your day being the way that you live your life. So if you start your day, get out of bed, make the bed, and organize the space around you and carry that forward internally, there's something to that. The other morning, the veil is really thin. I'm sure you're tired of hearing that because it's like Halloween season and whatnot, but because it's Halloween season, because it's Scorpio season, the veil is thin. And the dream world has been really interesting right now. For me personally, for a lot of friends, if you're having intense dreams, you're not alone. But the other morning, gosh, it had to be like 4 a.m., the witching hour. I had this real download about trauma, and trauma as an energy, almost like an element. And when you think about it, it's almost like this lacquer that's placed over your vision that prevents you from seeing clearly the goodness in all things, like this book says. So when we've had pain in our lives, or sadness in our lives, or hurt, or violence, or abuse, or all of the not so good things that can be presented to us through a roll of the dice in our life experience, these things stick and become sticky. And that stickiness prevents us from seeing clearly, feeling clearly, thinking clearly, having clarity. And I'm a firm believer in therapy. I'm a firm believer in meditation. I'm a firm believer in plant medicine. I'm a firm believer in taking a holistic approach to healing. Because in those moments where that veneer is stripped away and you can see clear, you see how trauma really becomes this paste over your life that takes away from all the beauty that actually can be there too. Coming on here and doing these lives for me has been really important now more than ever, the buzzword, right? Because I feel like this year for us as a whole collectively has been so challenging for mental health. A lot of dealing with our darkness and the darkness of the world, and how to sit with that, how to process that, analysis paralysis. How do I actually make an impact in the world and not just passively share stories to social media, but also using my social media for good? How to be a warrior human in the world when the world is flipped upside down. These are questions that a lot of us are sitting with and surfing through. And it's been hard. It's been hard because I think the level of fear and confusion is palpable. You can cut it with a knife. Talking about how trauma is tactile and a veneer over reality, the collective fear that we feel is also like a palpable energy. But I think one thing that I can say from this year and this experience and doing all this deep work and all of this identification with like mortality and what we've been sold as the illusions of happiness, and realizing like maybe that's just not it. What's more, and what does goodness look like, and what is a Shambhala on the world look like? It's been a time of revelation and growth. And I, on my personal Instagram, I deactivated it for a little bit, and I decided to turn it private and really recalibrate my own relationship to it, because over the summer I had experienced some really traumatic things. And hi, Sophie. And my way of processing them was through like kind of like creativity, and using creativity to kind of like talk about my process and things like that. But I had a moment looking back to all the posts and reading them, and I'm like, oh my God, these are so self-centric. And I've just been swimming in like my own self-loathing and self for a really long time. And I'm quite frankly tired of it. So I had this light switch kind of go off the last few weeks of like, how can I be of service for the community that I am so grateful to have had the privilege to build through Evolve and Ascend? How can I help? How can I actually do something that's not just like using my social media to talk about my bullshit? And I'm still learning and figuring that out, coming on here and reading from books that are meaningful and helpful and talking about what we're all going through has felt good. I want to do more interviews with other amazing people on the path here. I'm actually getting certified in hypnosis in December, and that's something that I really want to have become a community offering. It's really passionate to me to make everything accessible, because I feel like that's another kind of weird thing that's going on in this spiritual space, is these paywalls that have been put up. And we all need to make a living. There's nothing wrong with charging for services rendered, but there is no click funnel into enlightenment. And I'll turn that into a poster one day, because there's not there. Oh, my cat. Truth is a pathless land. Maybe that's what I'll call this series, because Krishnamurti has been a godsend through this time. So anyway, enough about me. God, that's my long and short way of saying that I love you all so much, and I feel very grateful that I even have the opportunity to talk on here. So I want to use this platform to talk about good things that are helpful, and books that are helpful, and weed through some of the new age, like sewage, because there's a lot of shit out there, but there's a lot of really beautiful works from masters of various traditions. The other book I actually thought about picking up for us tonight, because I wanted to talk about synchronicity, but this one was also in the book pile that this was found in. So give me 1 second while I grab it. Hold on. Hi, Carlo. So the other book that I think would be great to discuss is called If You Meet Buddha on the Side of the Road, Kill Him. And a lot of people are like, what does that mean? So basically what this says is no meaning that comes from outside of ourselves is real. The Buddhahood is in each of us and has already been obtained. We need only recognize it. Thus, the Zen master warns his disciple, if you meet Buddha on the side of the road, kill him. This is a really great book that actually was found in this pile of other books from Clara McBurney. So I'll give you the brief synopsis of this. So on here it says, risking. Sometimes it seems to me that in this absurdly random life, there is some inherent justice in the outcome of personal relationships. In the long run, we get more than we have been willing to risk giving. Love is more than simply being open to experiencing the anguish of another person's suffering. It is the willingness to live with the helpless knowing that we can do nothing to save other from his pain. The dependent principle. While seeking to be taught the truth, the disciple learns only that there is nothing that anyone else can teach him. The secret is that there is no secret. If you meet Buddha on the side of the road, kill him. So this is a really great book. It could be cool to do a book club. But picking this one and picking the Tao Te Ching and some of the other smaller texts that we've been kind of talking about and working through, have been a little easier to kind of extract pearls of wisdom from, because this is written by like a psychotherapist. So I don't know how much we can like divine and just say like, pick a page, what should we see? I mean, we could probably do that, but this one felt good for that. Another teacher, I was pulling some work from him during one of our last lives. So it was either between Krishnamurti or Nicholas Roerich. I read from his other book called The Invincible, but this one is called Realm of Light. So he talks about like Shambhala, and they're all connected. There's a stream of consciousness that flows throughout all of these books that I'll share here. And it's not the easy path, but it's a profound one. And yeah, I hope it's all helpful. So one of the other things I wanted to do tonight, we can pull more from the book or whatever else, but it's been fun to kind of divine with you all. So I actually have blank paper here, and a process I've been doing, not as much as I'd like, but just started getting into, is divining through a form of automatic writing, drawing. So I'll show you some of the ones that I did recently. So here's an example of one I did. Just kind of like let my hand go, thinking about an idea. Another one. And then here's another one. So while I have you guys on, I thought it would be kind of fun to just kind of do some at random and see how whatever comes through resonates. So we have 4 people on. So if you'd like one, say hi, say that you'd like it, or if there's an area of your life that you kind of like want to see what comes through here, I'm totally happy to do that. Whatever you'd like. Or I can just start going and see what comes through for a collective. So if I don't hear from anyone, maybe I'll do that. Yeah. So I was inspired because I actually saw my friend Mike Costani, who has a tarot deck called Best Tarot, which I used in one of our other lives to pull cards from. And basically the deck was made from people looking at tarot cards and then drawing the cards by memory. But that also stemmed from another kind of like drawing practice that our friend Richie incorporated in this workshop he did called Playing with Failure, where you have to draw something using your non-dominant hand. And it's really fun and hilarious and weird what comes through. Oops. Sure, Angie, I would be happy to. So drawing with your other hand is really cool. And actually, like, drawing with your non-dominant hand is a really powerful therapy in some. So there's a book called Connecting with Your Inner Child. I have them with me. We could do a whole other talk on that. Basically, there's a way where like you write a letter to your inner child with your dominant hand, and then your inner child responds through the non-dominant hand. So there's something really interesting about like what happens when we practice automatic writing. It's like divination and therapy all in one. So Angie, let's see what comes through. So I actually have been doing this with my dominant hand, not my non-dominant hand. And just not thinking, getting into a space of no mind and seeing what comes through and working from that space. Okay. That was wild. And you can let me know, Angie, if this resonates. So this was the image that came through. And the words that came through in this automatic writing was, you are going to do more than you have ever imagined. You are guided by us, and you are always supported. You are going to do more than you have ever imagined. You are guided by us, and you are always supported. Zoom out. However that resonates. Whatever that means. If you want to DM me, I can send you a photo of this. You can sit with it and unpack it and see how it feels. Came through really quick. Definitely a feminine energy. Definitely maternal energy. Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to do that. If you're still here, let me know. I'm here, and I'll email it, or just DM me and I'll send it to you. 20. So if somebody else would want one, they can do that too. I'm going to stay on for a little while longer, hang out, and see what comes through. Hi, Paulina. Yeah. Holden Da Vinci. Oh, I can repeat it again, Angie. Ooh. Sorry, it's dropped. So Angie, I'll repeat it again for you. So here's the image, right? And then what it says is that you are going to do more than you've ever imagined. You're going to do more than you've ever imagined. Your guides... Oh, now I can't even read it. Jesus. We can refresh it. Repeat it. Sometimes, like, when I channel this stuff, it comes through so kind of messy. And then in the moment, I feel it, and then it's like this sense of amnesia. Your guides are wise, and you're always supported. Wow. It's interesting entering that space of no mind and letting things go and like just kind of flow through you. When I used to practice channeling, it was a form of that. It was a form of automatic writing like this. So, but it would be just scribble, and I would be speaking words, and my former partner would like be my scribe. So he would just type or write the things that I was receiving. So it would be like just moving and and going for a really long time. It's cool incorporating the art aspect of things. And I've been enjoying kind of playing with that in my own experience. So thank you for letting me do that and kind of test it a little more here. If anybody has ever practiced automatic writing before, it's a really cool way of tapping into flow. So, yeah. So I'll do one more just for the collective, and then maybe pop offline and call it a night. Feel free to comment after the fact too. So, tonight, like I said, we read from this, talked a little about synchronicity. I wanted to do this kind of like drawing divination as a way of inspiring more synchronicity, because you never know what could come through if it's the message that's needed most of the time. I'd love to maybe take a journey through this book, if that's something that actually seems interesting to anybody. But the If You Meet Buddha on the Side of the Road, Kill Him book, I think that can be really powerful for the time that we're in, especially as we near closer to the election, connecting to sovereignty and not seeking solace and trying to find the guru or the teacher or the click funnel to empower you, but really to find like inner empowerment. because we need it now more than ever, for sure. And yeah, and talking synchronicity stuff. So let's see what comes through for everybody that's here right now. Yes, I'm the owner of the page. I'm Jen. If you scroll down a few posts ago, I actually talked about my inspiration and why I started this 7 years ago. So now I'm showing myself now. So hi. So here. All right. Hey Jake, welcome back. Okay. This is really interesting. So, doing this one for the collective. I wish I just said this as it was coming through, because I'm not even going to be able to read what this was, I think. So it says, you see things and things see you. Wait. You see things, and the things you see are also you. You are the things you see, and the things you see change as you do. You see things, and the things you see you. Wait, you see things, and the things see you. Oh my God. Damn it. It came through so clear, and now I can't even read what I wrote. Essentially, it sounds like it's saying that like everything we see is also being seen by us. We're the perceiver, and that is which is perceived. Creator creates creation, right? The cosmic mirror. We saw that it's like the Octavia Butler quote. Octavia Butler was an amazing African-American sci-fi writer. She wrote these books called Parable of the Sower. There's a whole series of them, but there's this one passage where he talks about like God being change. So all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. God is change. So if you see like this, whatever this is that just came through about the things that you see, also seeing you, you're the things you see, and the things that you see can change as you change. Everything shifts like a kaleidoscope of consciousness. So channeling that for the collective, it's kind of its own. It's funny, it looks like it's like on the emerald tablets, which is like my favorite text. So a lot of things that we see or touch or experience or read or feel change as we change. It's alchemy in the mind. And the emerald tablets of Thoth, the translation by Dr. Doriel, one of my favorite passages is it says, man is in the process of changing to forms that are not of this world. Grows he in time to the formless, a plane on the cycle above. But he also has another passage within it talking about if the light is within you, the light within these tablets will shine. And what that means is, if you ever pick up a text, or if you ever listen to a talk, or if you ever hear something and it sparks something within you, that's that initial kindling of synchronicity to set you on a path. And you could read something for the first time and feel a sense of familiarity with it. But then as you expand your consciousness, you can see even more. So in Buddhism, I think Vajrayana Buddhism in particular, they talk about words having inner, outer, and secret meanings. So if you look at a text like the Bible, there's a reason why, if you go into a Masonic temple, they have the Bible, they have the Holy Quran, they have, the Mahabharata, they have like all of the sacred texts on their altar. Because all of these texts, as you change alchemically, you see deeper meaning and layers with them. So the Bible to a Christian is a code of conduct and ways to live in the world. A Bible to an esoteric scholar could say that this is a cautionary tale of humanity. And like how to be a better human, looking at it as a great metaphor, not necessarily like the end all be all of things. So like looking at it from an alchemical lens, if you go to the Bible and the story of the Passion of the Christ. So when I received the Tao 6 years ago or whatever it was, one of the 3 treasures that I was given, they're considered secret treasures. 2 of them I'm never supposed to speak, but one of the ones that stuck with me was talking about the metaphor of Christ on the cross, on the mountain. So where Christ was crucified, Golgotha, is actually called Skull Mountain, and Christ was crucified between 2 thieves. So when they said like Christ being crucified between 2 thieves, is don't let your eyes deceive you of the truth, which is the way there, which is interesting because it's like, if you unpack the metaphors within there, they're really, really powerful. So who knows? Inner, outer, secret meanings to everything. So if I'm channeling something for the collective and it says you see things and things see you and things change as you change and everything is always changing with your perception. If you are maybe new on the path and really, really fresh and green into this awakening world and really want to cling so desperately to like an identity or a culture or a t-shirt or a movement, the idea of like spiritual anarchy or like truth being a pathless land may not land for you because, there's still an attachment to the group. But sovereignty eventually becomes something desirable as you're in this longer, as you study longer, as you read more, because you're who you enter the world with and you're who you exit the world with. When I was in Tibet, we went to this one temple, and in the temple they had this little secret passageway where it was completely dark and you had to enter, and you couldn't hold anyone's hand, you couldn't touch the walls, you had to enter through darkness and let your senses guide you to find the other way out of it. And it was like replicating the bardo. And it was like super trippy because it's like a weird initiation to understanding. Like you come into this world alone, you leave this world alone, and in between there are pathways of darkness. But even in the darkness, you're never alone. You have that animating spirit guiding you through every part of it. Let me read some of this. Earth destroying for us more so that we will connect to Gaia more through the sacred plants. I believe my dharma is to spread this wisdom. The light of Christ consciousness is inherent. Yes. Amen to that, Jake. Avoid gurus, follow plants. But yeah, there's definitely like, so when I used to channel, a lot of stuff came through and it sounded so like something out of a biblical text. And when we had asked about, so what is Earth? What is the point here? And the message that I got through that was that Gaia, Earth, is considered a bed for souls to awaken. So, a lot of like New Age stuff will talk about how like Gaia is kind of like Earth School. It's this living, breathing, maternal entity, this sphere of consciousness that our little spheres of consciousness come to learn from and move on from. Take that as you will. I like the metaphor. I appreciate the metaphor. I like the idea of Earth being a bed for souls to awaken, a garden of earthly delights, a space where we experience lives to acquire information so that wherever we move on to next, we are more evolved and sovereign and aware. I've thought about this many times. Apparently, we're a seed sent to grow and to sprout love that the universe can experience itself. Fractal. I love that. That's a beautiful way of putting it. I like to believe in that. I like to believe in the that even through chaos and contrast and darkness, there is information being acquired for something greater than us. That every particle and person on this path is helping the universe understand itself more. It's not a way to bypass the atrocities of what goes on in the world. Genocide, rape, trauma, violence, whatever that is hopefully being exercised from something bigger. Contrast provides guidance. In a universal perspective, a life of 70 years, if we're lucky, is a blip on the radar of things. But whatever information acquired in that life is so many lifetimes within lifetimes, within lifetimes, within lifetimes. A lot of us alive now, especially like on a spiritual path, may be really coming to terms with like so much deep ancestral trauma and generational trauma and family trauma. And it's like really hard to see and identify and look at like, oh my God, I'm replaying the unfinished business of my parents. But I really think that why that's happening to so many of us is because we're here to stop these generational curses, you know? We're here to break that cycle, break those patterns. I don't have kids. I have cats and a dog. But one day, maybe I would like to have a child. I don't know. TBD. I don't even have a boyfriend or a partner right now. But it's funny because a few years ago, I was having this discussion with a friend about like having children and like, is it wrong to have children in the world that we're in today because of what the future generations will inherit? And he had said, you know, it's selfish to have kids and it's also selfish not to have kids. Idiocracy turned out to be a documentary. So it's like if the people of the world that are thinking in greater terms and would be like really profound parents stop having kids, I mean, there's people are still going to people. So, and I believe that the future generations are going to continue to fix things. You know, one of my good friends who's actually hosting a global meditation on Scion Earth tomorrow, the 28th. She has a baby girl who's not even a year old. And the first time I met her, she reached out her arms for me. And my heart completely melted in that moment. And this child is so aware. And it's like she knows what she came here to do. So it's like we're doing this healing. Future generations are doing healing. Whatever dreams may come or chaos may unfold in the future, the path of being the dharma warrior, the sovereign being, the ripple of light and love through density is really what's going to save us, I think. Ask Aya to show you if you'll have one. I've been told she can show you the future. Yes. So I actually saw once on ayahuasca that I was going to have a daughter. And I thought it was going to be with this one person, but it wasn't. But that particular journey was like so prophetic. I actually saw a vision of an ex getting married, and I told him about it. And that was like the day he met her, and that's who he married. So the ayahuasca psychic visions are very profound, but they also can be confusing and weird. Ayahuasca is not a panacea. It's not a cure-all. I love plant medicine, and I know that it has such greatness within that experience to help us transcend and heal trauma and to really recalibrate how we use medicine in modern times. But it's not a cure-all. You know, it's easy to be in an astral space and then to like get pearls of wisdom and come back down and think like, oh my God, I have it all figured out. But embodiment is like the real work. So it's an elevator up, but take the stairs down. And if you come on here or have been coming on here, you'll notice I'll repeat myself because there are certain truisms and cliches that I've found to be really important. And plant medicines and entheogens are absolutely a powerful tool of initiation and expansion of consciousness. But absolutely the real work comes from integration and embodiment. And, working with them in a really intentional way and not abusing them or chasing peak experiences, which is something that can be a dangerous illusion on the path to looking at it as maybe a once a year spiritual consultation. I would recommend that personally, just through my last 7 years of working with it. I've found, and what's been really interesting over the last year is just where you can go in your mind through meditation and dream work and just writing, journaling. We're more powerful than we realize. And even that quote, avoid gurus, follow plants. You also don't want to put anything up on too much of a pedestal, because plants have their own agenda too. Every time I do a mushroom, I'm like, what are you trying to take from me or learn from me? That they're amazing. So all that to say, and I hope that continues to be something valuable from these talks, is just empowering you to be you fully and wholly, and to not get too attached to any one thing, to keep an open mind, keep an open heart, and to stay strong in the face of adversity and change, and follow the synchronicities, because you never know where they'll lead you. And yes, breath work is really profound. So Stanislav Grof is the creator of something called holotropic breathwork. So if you look on YouTube or look up Stanislav Grof, you can learn more about breathwork. So if you've been listening the whole time, Jake, and that one practice for breathing, that whatever page that was, I'm not going to waste time trying to figure out the page, but holotropic breathwork is really profound, and you can absolutely hit higher dimensions through your breath. And these Buddhist practices like Chogyam Trungpa talk about here are incorporating a higher dimension through holding pleasure and pain, which is pretty amazing. But the breath is a powerful tool. Where we can go with our mind and through discipline, we're so distracted on our phones, to just sit and be and breathe and feel and just not have any auxiliary. That's psychedelic. Life is a psychedelic experience. Life is also a near-death experience. Life is a trip. And there's just so much that we can learn on the journey and from each other. And conversation is a form of initiation. So I'm happy to hop on here and have these conversations with you all. J, MDMA really gets you going as well, surrounded by trees, of course, yes. But sobriety is also beautiful. Waking up in the morning and just being you as you are is also a gorgeous thing. And all these other tools are great tools and great magnifying glasses and lenses to look at the world through, but ultimately, where you'll arrive is at you. So love and appreciate that landing. So on that note, tomorrow I'm actually going to be doing an Instagram live with one of the most beautiful shaman I've ever met in my life. His name is Mitra Politi. He has a new book out called Insights to Truth. He's a shaman at Rhythmia. He's trained in the Colombian tradition. His life story is incredible. we are hopping on here for a live tomorrow. I'll make an announcement in the stories, so if you don't miss it, but it will be available for viewing after the fact. All these will live on Instagram TV. But Mitra is just a beautiful, beautiful human being, and I really look forward to sharing that conversation with you all. Very much a Dharma warrior on the path, and his new book, Insights, Steps to Truth. So the time is going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Pacific. To set a reminder, which would be great, because if you can hop in live, that'll be awesome. So you can kind of ask questions and chime in. But if you can't make the live, then you can watch on IGTV. And definitely follow Mitra. He's a beautiful, beautiful being, and really, really just pure intentions on the path, and a powerful, powerful teacher, healer, guide. So on that note, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you all for being here. Again, this is the book that we were reading from. This is a book I'd highly recommend. And yeah. You see things and the things see you. I like this. I'm going to work on my script for these moving forward. But I love you all. And Jake, it was cool talking to you. And everybody that interacted, you're awesome. And I'm grateful. And have a good night. Peace.